rain was merciless that night, painting streaks across the glass walls of the city cafe. Inside, laughter and warmth wrapped around those who could afford comfort, while outside, the world blurred in cold and loneliness. At the corner table, a little girl in a pink raincoat stared out through the window, her tiny fingers curled around a half-eaten sandwich. Her eyes, big and innocent, suddenly widened. "Daddy," she whispered softly, tugging her father's sleeve. "She looks hungry. Can I share my food with her?" And that single question, so pure, so unguarded, changed the life of the man the world knew as one of the coldest CEOs in the country. Before we dive deeper into this heart-touching story, make sure to like this video, chew on me and to your thoughts, and subscribe to our channel, Whispers of Kindness, where we bring you real stories that remind the world kindness still matters. To our development, Ethan Cole was a name everyone in the corporate world feared. The single dad, CEO of a billion-dollar real estate empire, was known for his precision, ruthlessness, and unbending perfection. He'd built his empire from the ground up after losing everything, including his wife, in a tragic car accident 5 years earlier. Since then, Ethan's heart had been sealed behind glass walls just like his office. He lived by numbers, contracts, and results, not emotions. The only thing that could melt his armor was his 6-year-old daughter, Lily. She was the light that kept his soul from turning completely cold. That rainy evening, after a long day of back-to-back meetings, Ethan had promised Lily he'd take her for her favorite treat, grilled cheese and tomato soup from the cafe near the park. For her, it was a simple joy. For him, it was one of the few things that made life bearable. As they sat together by the window, Lily swung her legs under the table, humming softly. Her laughter was a melody that made Ethan forget the world's chaos. But as the rain fell heavier, she suddenly stopped. Her smile faded. She was staring at someone, outside. A young woman, drenched to the bone, sat on the pavement across the street. She was shivering, her thin coat clinging to her skin, her hands wrapped around her stomach. She looked barely 20, her eyes hollow, defeated. A paper bag beside her had spilled, a few apples rolling across the wet sidewalk. "Daddy," Lily said, her voice trembling. "She looks hungry. Can I share my food with her?" Ethan looked up briefly. His instinctive response was the one he always gave to the world. Distant, dismissive. "No, sweetheart. She'll be fine. Someone else will help her." But Lily didn't look away. She watched the girl in the rain, biting her lip. "But what if no one does?" she whispered. "You always say we should be kind, right?" That one line pierced Ethan like a quiet blade. He looked at his daughter, the very image of the woman he'd lost, and felt something inside him stir. A memory. Years ago, before he became the man everyone feared, his wife Emma had once said to him, "The world doesn't need more powerful men, Ethan. It needs more kind ones." He stood up slowly. "All right, Lily. Let's go give her something warm." Outside, the wind bit through their clothes as they crossed the street. The girl on the pavement flinched when she saw them. Ethan took off his coat and wrapped it around her shoulders without a word. "Sir, I'm sorry," she stammered. "I wasn't begging. I was just resting." Ethan crouched beside her. "You look like you haven't eaten in days." "I'm fine," she murmured, though her voice betrayed her hunger. Before he could say more, Lily stepped forward, holding her little sandwich in both hands. "You can have mine," she said brightly. "It's my favorite. Daddy says food tastes better when you share it." The girl stared speechless. Her lips trembled as tears mixed with rain on her cheeks. "Thank you," she whispered. Ethan helped her stand and led her back into the cafe. Customers turned to look, some with judgment, others with pity. But he didn't care. He ordered soup, sandwiches, and coffee, extra hot. As she ate, her trembling hands steadied. She introduced herself softly. "I'm Sarah. I used to study at Greenfield University. I was supposed to graduate last year, but my mom got sick. I dropped out to take care of her. She passed away last month. After that, I lost my apartment. I've been looking for a job since." Ethan listened in silence. Behind his stoic face, emotions churned. He'd spent years building walls to protect himself from pain, but this girl's story hit too close to home. The struggle, the loss, the loneliness. When Sarah finished, Lily gently patted her hand. "My mommy's in heaven too," she said softly. "But Daddy says she still watches over us when we help people." Ethan's throat tightened. He blinked away the sudden sting in his eyes. He cleared his throat and handed Sarah a card. Come to this address tomorrow at 10 a.m. Tell them I sent you." She looked down. The card bore the logo of Cole Enterprises. "Wait, you're Ethan Cole?" He nodded. "Everyone deserves a chance. Sarah, let's start with that." The next morning, Sarah arrived at the glass tower of Cole Enterprises, wearing the same borrowed coat. The receptionist greeted her kindly and led her upstairs. Ethan was already waiting in his office. He offered her a seat and smiled slightly, a rare thing for him. "I have a position open as an assistant in our community outreach division. It's not glamorous, but it's honest work. Would you take it?" Tears filled her eyes. I don't know how to thank you, sir." "Don't thank me," Ethan said. "Thank the little girl who reminded me what compassion looks like." Weeks turned into months. Sarah worked diligently, bringing warmth wherever she went. Under her touch, the once sterile division began organizing food drives, shelters, and charity programs across the city. Ethan found himself watching her from a distance, not out of pity, but admiration. There was something about her quiet strength, her resilience, that reminded him of the man he used to be. Lily adored her. Every afternoon, Sarah would read to her in the garden of the corporate building, fairy tales, dreams, and stories about hope. Slowly she became part of their small, broken family. But peace never comes without trials. One evening, a board member stormed into Ethan's office, slamming a file onto his desk. "Cole, do you know what this looks like? You're hiring homeless people, diverting company funds into charity projects. Investors are furious." Ethan glanced up, calm but cold. "I'm aware. You're risking millions. For what? Some sob story." Ethan stood, his voice steady but fierce. "For humanity. Because if all we build are walls made of glass and greed, then we've already lost everything worth having." For the first time in years, he stood against the very world he'd built, not for profit, but for purpose. That night, Sarah overheard the conversation outside the door. Tears welled up in her eyes. She'd never imagined someone would fight for her like that. The next morning, she brought Lily a little handmade bracelet made from leftover threads. "It's a lucky charm," she said with a smile, "for you and your dad, to remind you that kindness always finds its way back." Lily hugged her tightly. "You're our angel, Miss Sarah." Ethan, watching from the doorway, smiled quietly. For once his heart felt full. Months later, Cole Enterprises launched the Hope Initiative, a foundation aimed at supporting the homeless, underprivileged students, and single parents in need. The program went viral nationwide. Media outlets praised Ethan for his transformation from cold businessman to the CEO with a heart. But for Ethan, the real reward wasn't fame. It was the look in his daughter's eyes when she said one evening, "Daddy, Mommy would be proud of you." He pulled her close, whispering, "She already is, sweetheart. You helped me remember who I am." If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and comment below. Subscribe to Whispers of Keenness for more emotional stories that remind us love and compassion still change lives. Indian message. Weeks later, as they sat again by the same cafe window, Lily pointed outside, this time not to a hungry stranger, but to a group of volunteers giving food to the poor under a bright new banner that read, "Hope lives here." She turned to her father, smiling. "See, Daddy, kindness really does grow." Ethan nodded, tears glimmering in his eyes. "Yes, sweetheart. It starts with one small heart and changes the whole world." The rain had stopped. The world outside glowed, not from city lights, but from something far warmer.